Now we've prepared a few questions. As far as I understand, Volocopter is more for the short distance, while Lilium is more for the long distance. Is it correctly put?
Look, I think the reality is we can probably do both.
But you can do short distances, but Volocopter doesn't seem to be able to do long distances.
I believe,
we can do long distance, but we're not designed to do long distance, and I think a airborne vehicle, using is more efficient on the longer distance. So yeah, I think it's a fair statement to say Volocopter is designed for the air taxi urban mission.
And obviously, as soon as you go into wing-borne flight, yes, you have different physics. We are talking about similar battery concepts, and of course, the aerodynamics just allow, in that different concept, longer distances. That's right.
Right. If you look at the success or the future success of your businesses to generate net income, right? I think there were always two skeptic points in Europe. The first one is we have no innovation anymore. You proved that this was wrong. It's flying.
It is.
Literally. And second, which is a topic I think known to everyone, and I had a discussion here with Andre earlier about Brussels and our bureaucracy, that even the innovation we have, the few innovative companies, obviously you have a huge, interesting product in front of you, it's very hard to get that product to market because of regulation. I would like to ask both of you how you see the regulatory process. We can probably start with where you are in terms of the process, and yeah, what the next steps are.
So really, we looked at the regulatory challenge and said, let's not try to change the regulation right away. Let's try to fit into it as good as possible. The reason why we have a joystick on board for a pilot to be able to operate the vehicle, it was a step backwards for it, right? We had to implement it after we were already able to control it from the ground.
You don't need the joystick, it flies on its own, right?
It does totally fly on its own. We put in the joystick to fit into existing regulations. So we were very, let's say, pragmatic about it. We are seeing a lot of support from German but also European regulators so far. They know the technology is coming, they know it's going to be very valuable, so let's find solutions together. At the same time, this is a global play. There's cities in South America and Asia that are really craving for solutions, and I expect some of those cities to be faster than the regulatory regime.
Because you had a test flight in Dubai recently, and they seem to be a bit more relaxed about.
They're not more relaxed. I would not disagree. I would not agree to that. Really, I think what they did is they are putting safety standards according to international standards in place. Definitely, but the net time of here's the standards that you need to fulfill and here's the tests that you need to do is much shorter because all the regulators are in one room and they're all aligned on the common objective. But they have international, let's say, consultants making sure that we do adhere to EASA or FAA standards, even if we're operating in Dubai.
So Remo, for Florian, it seems to be easy. He puts a joystick and then he's under the old regulation. Is your Lilium also going under the old regulation, or you have more challenges?
I think you got to differentiate this. One is the regulation about the aircraft itself, what we call the type certification. So if you want to fly commercially, you obviously got to hit the bar the same as an A320, you got to hit the bar. But what's interesting is the EASA has just recently changed their approach to regulation and said, you got to hit this bar of safety. How are you doing that? It's actually your problem, and they're very collaborative in that way. And I think that is, to your earlier point, actually a change in attitude and fosters innovation. Okay, so that's one thing, and I think that is, we're happy to go through that because we want to fly. The second then is the regulation, how close can you get into a city? Because as soon as we have the approval, the type certificate, which is a well-understood process, we can fly anywhere, like anything that a helicopter can do or a small aircraft.
Where are you landing?
Yeah, but you can do already a lot, so especially outside of cities is no problem. But then the next stage of the regulation, what we will both have to deal with across the globe is how close can we get to the London city, and where can we land, exactly as you say, like how close can you come to people. And I think that is novel territory. And that's where we come obviously with a different concept. It's quieter, it's safer than anything that has been before in terms of like those small aircrafts.
What's the length of the landing strip you need for your aircraft? Or
there's no landing strip for us, it's vertical. So I mean, if you have a basketball field size, anywhere like a helipad, you can land our jet.
the volopod requirements are really minimal. I mean, you can land on a 15 by 15 square meter square anywhere, in theory. You just need to make sure that there's no one there and there's no obstruction.
I think we could land at the front there where everybody's smoking cigarettes and taking their calls.
One day we will do it.
Exactly, or have a little pad outside so we can then get everybody back to the airport. So that's the plan. Next NOAH, maybe.
I think by 2020 you will see real, or let's say pilot commercial operations already. We are ready to move now, and I think you will see a lot more demonstrations in the coming months and years.
So 2020. And Lilium, what's your rough timetable?
Look, I think our timetable is longer, primarily because we are going after the type certification of a commercial aircraft. And it's a bit difficult to estimate what exactly is the time. It's longer than that.
Do you get support from like some big politicians to speed up the process on the regulatory side? Well, did you get like one of those like, hey, if you get stuck, call me?
No, look, the EASA itself is very supportive. So actually the previous head of the Harrier jet program is involved himself. They're all very fascinated, but it's aviation. You don't take shortcuts there.
You should not, right? You don't want that.
You just don't.
So do it proper, please.
So exactly. So I think it's a lot of it is down to us of like how rigorous can be. We go through that.
But they're keen to not be in the way.
They are keen to not be in the way, and that's very positive.
There's a lot of innovation happening inside of EASA, and I think we both appreciate the abilities and the new ways that they have opened up for us.
Yeah, I mean, the regulators are quite busy also in the crypto ICO world. At some point, they have to get to that. Technology requires new rules, right?
That's right.
Innovation does. How is it that we have two German companies here on stage? There are not so many global competitors who have prototypes flying, I believe. Let's talk a little bit about competition.
Look, I think Germany, and especially like southern Germany, there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of deep tech knowledge, and we are tapping into that pool of engineers. We can never get enough engineers, but you already have a very broad range, great universities, and very, very global, superb companies that are anyways delivering the whole world with deep engineering tech. So I think that is probably that. And then in terms of the competitive landscape, I mean, I'm not sure about how you see it, but I think there will probably be like three types. Like one is probably like the inner city type competitors. One is sort of the intra-city, still vertical, but there's also going to be probably the general electrification of short-haul flight. So all of that is going to happen, and there's different competitors, including Airbus and Boeing, who are participating in that. But I guess we both believe that, of course, there's a certain advantage of being a nimble startup in that particular instance.
Is it a race, Florian, to market? Are you worried about the competition?
I think time does play a very significant role in it. At the same time, I think it is an engineering game. It's a regulatory game. There's no shortcuts to it. And I think with our very diligent approach, being German and so on, I think we're on the right track. We feel very confident that we can play a very significant role going forward. We are surrounded by world-class companies leading in the mobility space, especially in southern Germany. We're being supported by some of them. Daimler just recently invested in us. And I think all of that plays to our advantage.
And it's a huge market as well. I mean, imagine if we didn't have cars and we start off, for us to go and produce the amount of jets that is going to be needed for the world market, we believe it's about like 20% probably of this whole 3 trillion additional air mobility that is possible. That is a lot of jets.
Is it affordable?
Yes, so this, because the electrification does start actually to make it properly affordable. And also the second thing is the simplicity of the new designs. That actually is a very fundamental change to why this is going to become affordable.
Do you have any idea what your product will cost once you are, let's say, a few years in production and it's at a certain quantity?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no reason why at scale a Volocopter should cost more than 100,000 euros. So it can come down to the cost of an expensive car. But I think what's even more important than the cost of the vehicle per se is the operational costs. And that's where we see huge savings.
Cost per mile.
Cost per mile. We will see huge savings in the energy cost involved, in the MRO, maintenance, repair, overhaul requirements, especially on a simplified vehicle that has most of the complexity in the electronics rather than the mechanical side. Our overhaul maintenance requirements are minimal compared to traditional ones. And then ultimately, if you can take out the pilot of the equation, you're pretty much set, and you're very competitive towards any kind of ground transport.
Because you're battery flown, right? And what is your source of energy for?
Of course, it's battery as well. And battery, yes,
Also
absolutely.
battery.
And
So we all have to pray for the battery.
of course,
R&Ds.
and they are going to get better.
get
But
better.
I think the other thing is like what's in our concept, we're also looking at sharing. So we are looking at obviously being a service, an on-demand service, and then of course the equation of like how expensive is the aircraft itself becomes pretty relevant.
So what's your biggest? Sorry.
But I do disagree with the pray for better batteries. I mean, we have limitations in the battery technology. I think any one of us would appreciate better batteries around the corner. But just sitting there waiting for it is not a good strategy. So we really approached it from a way where we said, what can we do with today's battery technology? And are there routes that we can serve? You know, the minimal viability aspect to it. And there are clearly routes that we can serve today that is totally doable with or feasible with the batteries we have today. And therefore, we are extremely focused on a battery swap model rather than a quick charging and so on model.
What's your biggest bottleneck to grow? I mean, you mentioned engineers. I mean, what's the number of employees at Lilium and Volocopter, roughly?
So we're about 80, 90.
80, 90 people, and you're?
We're around 30 now, 30, 40. So we have very aggressive growth plans. I think we both have money in the bank right now, so it's full scale up.
So what is, you also raise money with capital doesn't seem to be a bottleneck because people are chasing you, I know. Engineering power.
Absolutely. I think it's a number of things that are going to come together. One is world-class engineering. Second one is world-class manufacturing. And in our case, obviously, it will be also world-class operations and customer experience. And all three of them are hard to do in itself.
But the regulatory side is not a bottleneck.
Of course it is as well.
It's a time constraint, really.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it gives some unpredictability, which always hurts. But
Well,
it's
at the moment you have more lawyers than engineers. I think we can say goodbye to Europe.
Well, one more aspect to the regulatory side. As much as we complain about it sometimes, and we try not to, as you see, but it's also a big entry barrier for others to follow that path. I mean, we're cutting a path across this forest right now. Once we're through, you know, hopefully we will also benefit from it. And second, we get a lot of reaction of people saying, "Oh, air taxi." I'm a bit skeptical about, you know, being flown around the city. Well, yes, but if I do it, I'd much rather do it in a German vehicle than other vehicle. It is a reaction we get, truly.
Where do you think you will operate first? I think you do your tests in Dubai, and it's possible that.
Dubai is a good prospect, but we're not just counting on the Dubai card, absolutely. You will see us being active in many more cities very soon.
I think lots of different opportunities, and I think it's also down to a bit of the pull of the cities. So we started talking with
cities call you from all over the world?
Yes, and that's when it gets interesting. And obviously, we're looking for a great regulatory environment for somebody who's willing to also take away barriers and really work with us. Because, yes, as a showcase, but also to see the real opportunity that is in it. So we do genuinely believe there's a fundamental shift and a fundamental change of how we're going to live our lives if we get this all right. And that's what we're looking for.
The first step is demonstrating the viability of the vehicle, but it doesn't end there. You have to demonstrate the viability of the service, which means all of the aspects that I mentioned earlier. So that's what we are aiming to demonstrate next. And then I think people will actually grasp on how this can be integrated into our everyday lives.
So we have in Berlin at Tempodrome this massive sports field. I have a dream.
Very good.
Is it going to be possible that you are both flying in?
Well, give me a time.
Well, why would we fly into a sports drone?
I can do it tomorrow if it makes sense.
No, but look, I think where it's going to go much more is on the roofs. It's probably going to be a much more distributed network. What we both have an advantage is like we're not going to be constrained by tunnels or by roads. So that means you're probably going to look at a future which is much more like in a city. You'll have many ports. You'll have many smaller ports rather than one large airport or one main train station. And then actually connecting people from where they live to where they need to go and start to avoid a lot of the bottlenecks that are actually here today.
Yeah.
So that's probably more the vision that we're having for the future.
Well, I'm fascinated by your companies, and I think it shows true European entrepreneurship, what you are building. Thank you so much for coming to NOAH.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marco.